This episode of the All About Nothing podcast is sponsored by listeners like you and Big Media LLC, encouraging you to check your voter registration. In a world where every voice counts, ensuring your registration is accurate and up to date is the simplest, most effective way to guarantee your vote is heard. Don't leave your participation to chance. Take a moment today and verify your status and stay ready for the next election by visiting theallaboutnothing.com/voter.
The All About Nothing podcast may have language and content
that isn't appropriate for some.
Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, Nothingers, to the All About Nothing podcast. This is episode number 320. I am Barrett Gruber. You can follow me across all social media at Barrett Gruber. Please subscribe and share the show. That's how we get new listeners. Also, please consider supporting the show financially by visiting theallaboutnothing.com and becoming an official member and proudly calling yourself a true Nothinger. We'll have more details on that at the end of the show. If you can't do that, please give us a 5-star review, a like, and follow us across all social media. You can find links at theallaboutnothing.com. Before we get started, I want to thank Jeremy Jones, the Democrat running for House District 88 here in Lexington County in South Carolina. Really appreciate Jeremy coming on the show and talking about his campaign and really getting an opportunity to discuss the issues that he is running on and the changes that he would like to make when elected to that office. So again, thank you very much, Jeremy Jones, for being on the show. Going to get started now. South Carolina hasn't elected a Democrat as Attorney General since 1990. This year, one man is betting he can end that streak without taking a single dollar to do it. Richard Hricik is the Democratic nominee for South Carolina Attorney General, and he's running on what may be the strangest campaign in the state. No donations, no PAC money, and no self-funding either. Just a $94 bank account and a pledge that if he owes nobody, he can fight for everybody. A Charleston trial and appellate attorney with 3 decades of experience and a former tax accountant before that, Hricik says the AG's office has drifted from its real job, protecting consumers, prosecuting domestic violence, going after polluters, and getting South Carolina better deals at the negotiating table. He points to the state sitting out the $700 million Johnson & Johnson talc settlement and $75 million in excessive legal fees tied to the Savannah River site deal, Exhibits A and B, for why the office needs new eyes. He'll face Republican David Stumbo, the 8th Circuit solicitor, in a state where Republicans have held the office for 28 of the last 31 years. Today, he joins us to make his case for the office, for his no money pledge, and for why he thinks South Carolinians should elect him to the job. Welcome to the show, Richard. I really appreciate you being here with me today.
Barrett, what a wonderful introduction. And let me tell you, I think you just did a fantastic job of all of the things that I try to talk to people about what is the office of the Attorney General and a complete reframe, because people hear Attorney General and they equate it that somehow you're the state solicitor. And as we were discussing, and as I told you, the word general is in the title for a reason. It is a generalist. It is a vast, vast law firm of over 300 employees, 90 attorneys that cover everything from securities, consumer issues, environmental issues, structures of government, federalism, constitutional law, civil rights. I can keep going. And as an attorney of 30 years, a trial and appellate attorney, as a professor of criminal justice, which is how I came here to South Carolina. In 1997, teaching at Charleston Southern University, I taught criminal justice and constitutional law. And today I teach constitutional civil rights. That is the enforcement mechanism of your constitutional rights. And that includes states' rights under the 10th Amendment. 42 USC 1983, I teach live and in person at the Charleston School of Law, and I also teach remote at my alma mater, William & Mary. So thank you. You did it. You did a great job, and this is exactly it. We're not just talking about crime, and nothing shows that more. That who is prosecuting Alec Murdaugh?
Yeah, I think
Great
that's
waters.
Yeah.
Not Alan Wilson. That's the way it works.
And I think that's part of the problem when people associate what it is the Attorney General is with the reality of what the Attorney General is, because we've had Alan Wilson refer to himself as the top cop in South Carolina. You know, we have attorneys generals that seem to put themselves in front of the cameras when it comes to the prosecution of big cases and things like that. Or Alan Wilson has done that in several instances here in South Carolina. So I think that's where that confusion comes from.
Well, I can't say what his purpose is for doing what it is, but I can tell you what the law says. And this is where I like the law. And that's why I directed you. Do you know what the job of the Attorney General is? It's super simple. It's two things. One, represent the people of South Carolina. So you know who that my client is? My client is the people of South Carolina. I'm not the governor's attorney. I am the people's attorney. And my job is to look out for the interests of the people. And second of all, my job is to defend the rule of law. My job is not to take political positions. The rule of law is black and white. It is not red or blue. And as soon as we make it red or blue, we're going to lose this thing. The rule of law is what binds us. It's what holds us together. 250 years ago, our first grievance to the king was he has refused his own assent to our laws for our common good. And that basically said he disrupted the rule of law. He did not let us pass laws that could give us stability, and he refused to assent to his own laws that the king was above the rule of law. And for 250 years, it's worked really pretty well that we've said there's a rule of law. It applies to everyone. It doesn't pick political sides. And I'll tell you this, if I'm your attorney general and you attack the General Assembly building, you're going to jail. And I don't care who you voted for, because that's the rule.
Yeah, no, I agree. So let me ask you,
Yes,
first, do me a favor, tell us about yourself. How, I know I gave this biography of sorts, but, give us a little background into who you are and how you came about this decision to run for Attorney General.
I'm going to give you a little just because, I could go a lot, and it's not that I want to talk about myself, but I'm really very fortunate. So I grew up one of six kids in a working class suburb of Cleveland, Ohio, where everybody I went to high school went to work at Ford Motor, Chevy Assembly or LTV. They're all line runs. That's what you did. And that wasn't a derogatory term. We were working class people. I'm a second generation American, as you can tell from my last name. My father served in the Air Force. He didn't speak English till he was 6 years old. And I am profoundly patriotic, and I love this country more than anything. I saw what it did to my family. And in 2 generations, here we are. We went from my grandmother, who was 13 years old, a refugee of World War I, stepped off Ellis Island with only an address in Lorain, Ohio, and $25, and she worked cleaning houses from New York City to Lorain, Ohio. My grandfather tried to work in the coal mines in Weirton, West Virginia, but they wouldn't let him work there because he didn't speak English. So he walked and hitchhiked from Weirton, West Virginia to Lorain, Ohio, because I heard they'd give him a job shoveling coal in the steel mills in Lorain. That's my family lineage. We work, and you work hard. And I grew up one of 6, and we worked for everything. I've been working since I've been 13. I had a newspaper route. I've washed dishes. I've bussed tables. I've turned wrenches. I've fixed cars. I've painted houses. I've driven a forklift. You name the hustle, I have done it. I'm the first in my family to graduate college.
Oh, wow.
I did my undergraduate degree at night. Cleveland State University, which is not one of the most premier universities in the country, nor was it at the time. I worked full-time during the day, and I did my undergraduate degree at night and on the weekends. And on the weekends, I also painted houses while I was working as a bank teller, a bookkeeper, a copy and file guy at Arthur Anderson. And then after I got my accounting degree, they let me sit at a desk there. And, I had arrived. I got a job. And by the way, Barrett, you know why I chose accounting as a degree? Do you think it was my dream to grow up to be an accountant?
I would be remiss to not know why, because I don't want to assume.
Because you know what? You can't miss, right? When you put yourself through school and you don't have anything, you can't get a degree, but you can't miss it. You got to get a job, and you got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And I knew, good times, bad times, somebody needs. You need to be able. They always need somebody who could keep track of money. And I was always good with numbers, and I understood finance. And so I went to work for Arthur Andersen, which was then the largest international accounting firm in the world. I did super high net worth tax compliance, tax structures. And then I also did forensic accounting, reconstructing the books and records of failed savings and loans. Because you have this great idea that if we completely deregulated the financial industry, what could possibly go wrong? Well, so I would go into these failed savings and loans, and we would put together their books and records of something called 5BA, and that's what we did. And so I did that for a while, and then I decided that I wanted to go to law school. And to be really honest, part of the reason I wanted to go to law school was it was another trade. What I always saw in my lifetime is if you had the skills, whether you were a plumber, whether you were an electrician, whether you were a carpenter, you were an auto mechanic in my neighborhood. Family lived up the street. They had a little business where, he had a garage. It's like, you earned money. You controlled yourself. When you worked in the mills and worked on the lines for GM and Ford and LTV when the economy downturn, these neighborhoods dried up. I mean, people moved away. It cost them their jobs, and I didn't want to be that thing. So I figured if I get a law degree, I'd always have a job. Same way like being an accountant. So I did really well on my LSATs. I got accepted to, believe it or not, I got accepted to Georgetown. I got accepted to Penn. But the math didn't work. They didn't give me any money, and I just really couldn't afford it. And William and Mary was an amazing law school that gave me a little bit of money, and I went there. And part of what that was amazing in that, and it shaped me to this day, and it takes me to about the Attorney General, and I'll say this. One of the first things I do at William and Mary is you have a gathering at the alumni house, right? And the alumni house, you go there, and I don't have the exact numbers, so forgive me, but it says something. If you go in there, and there's a sign, it says 8 signers of the Declaration of Independence, 16 signers of the Constitution, 4 chief justices of the Supreme Court, William and Mary birthplace image. And you are taught the concept that you are a citizen lawyer, and that these were the guardians of democracy. That's what Thomas Jefferson went to law school. And that you are a guardian of the democracy, and this thing isn't promised. And as a citizen lawyer, your job is to serve your community and uphold the rule of law.
Yeah.
So when you ask me what are my roots and what are my experiences and where it comes from that profound place. Because today I see us losing control of that. I see us today saying the law can be red and blue, and it's not. It's black and white. And it is the most dangerous thing to our democracy when we politicize the office of the Attorney General with people do that. So anyway, so I went to law school. I did an internship with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C., doing international organized crime and also felony trial in the district, because the district is a federal district. So I worked in J. Edgar Hoover building, right there and the whole thing, and I did some pretty interesting things with the international organized crime. I also worked in the House of Representatives for the House Banking Committee as a legislative intern. So I got to do federal legislation. And then I was going to, sort of my life is going to take a different sort of tack. And then my mom died in my last year of law school. And I went back to Cleveland, and my younger brother lived with me. And it sort of changed my plans, but I ended up doing private practice law in Cleveland. Went to work for a big law firm, Reminger, one of the biggest ones, and did all kinds of, any kind of litigation. I was the catch-all guy. I was whatever anybody didn't have, or, so if it was probate, trust, estate, tax, insurance agreements, indemnity, I would just like put it on my desk. I'll figure it out. That's my skill. I love figuring out the puzzle. And so, lo and behold, time passed. I worked there for a little while. I met my wife and then fell in love. And we decided that we wanted to go on an adventure. And we didn't know anybody in Charleston, South Carolina, but she had vacation here with her family. And I drove into town driving a Nissan Sentra E with 260 air. And for those people who don't know what 260, you know what 260 air is, Ben?
No, my brother does.
It's 60 miles an hour, my friend. Okay? That's 260 air. So when I say we came here with nothing, we came here with nothing. We had used cars and everything in a U-Haul, and we had enough money to maybe make it 6 months. And we'll see what happened. And it has been nothing but a conspiracy of happiness ever since we came there in 1997. I got a job teaching at Charleston Southern. I was going to pursue a career in teaching. I got a job offer to teach constitutional law out at Southwestern Law School in Los Angeles. And Barrett, are you married?
Divorced twice.
Okay, so divorced twice. All right, so you do know then this dynamic where you say to your wife, hey, I have this really great idea. We're going to move to Los Angeles and I'm going to teach constitutional law. And she goes, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I go, right, it is the dumbest thing I ever heard. What was that? I just wanted to see if you felt the same way.
But it's usually for me, it was like, hey, I'm thinking about switching to oat milk.
See, well, it's all degrees.
That's right.
So then I decided to stay here. I opened my own law practice, the law offices of Richard Hricik, and one client at a time with that last name in Charleston, South Carolina. I built a law practice. And today I am blessedly successful beyond my wildest possible dreams.
That's fantastic.
I wake up every day and I cannot believe the blessings in my life and the gratitude for everything that has occurred. The positive impacts I've been able to have on the community. I mean, I hate talking about this stuff. My wife and I do a lot of things in the community, the ability to make donations and support causes and a just unbelievable number of things and people we've been able to help. And, so now it gets to this job and it's at this point in my career. And I say, I'll say it as simply as this. I don't need this job, but I want this job. And I think I'm the right person for the right time. I owe no one. I can fight for everyone. I've been fighting for ordinary people for 30 years against the biggest corporate opponents you could possibly imagine. Fortune 500 companies, going after those people who have harmed people and doing that and also solving everyday problems for people. People call me still because I don't advertise. I'm not a TV guy, and they'll call me and they're like, hey, I'm having a problem with my landlord. You think I'm going to tell them, no, hey, Rich, I'm too big though. You pick up the phone and you help people, and sometimes we just move them on to somebody else. But I have what I call the 10-minute rule. Everybody who calls my office, you get 10 minutes of my time.
Yeah, but
I'm
that's
so
the thing. That's the thing, though. Sometimes someone has a problem and they don't know what path they need to go down in order to get that resolved. And to have someone that can at least help them in the right direction is huge. I mean, that is like, I don't know. I can't think of anything right offhand, but let's say I've got a water leak in my front yard. My front yard has a pond. It hasn't rained in weeks, and now I have a pond. Well, sometimes, where do I start? Because the first thing somebody's going to say is, well, you need to turn your water off. Well, I legally can't turn off my water. I've signed a contract with the group that provides my water that I will not turn my water off. If I do, then I'm potentially in jeopardy of being fined for it. So, I got to find a plumber or I got to find somebody who can get a hold. It's a Sunday morning. So who do I call at West Columbia City Hall to have somebody come turn the water off? Well, ultimately in the end, I have to make the decision myself and reach into the puddle and turn the water off myself because there's nobody available at the city office on a Sunday morning. They're all at church or not church.
Well,
but that's a big thing.
Well, when you add to that, look, people don't know the law, right? And they don't know things and they ask questions about things. And a lot of times, and I don't want to speak poorly of other attorneys or otherwise, but they'll say, well, hey, that's not a case. I'm not going to call that person back or that seems silly or get the email over. I call them, I talk to them and I'll explain to them, well, you need someone to partner with you on your case. And here's why I can't partner with you on this case, because I don't think it's particularly valuable for you and it's not a good use of my time and resources. And I don't think I can get you the result that I think you would want. But here's my number and here's my name. And if I can ever help you in the future, please do. And back in the old days, I used to take out stationery and you'd type up a letter and I would wet sign it with a pen and include a business card. And I can't tell you how many times I had people say, Mr. Hricik, you turned me down 3 times, but this time I got a case for you. And, and they come to me. And to this day, my cell phone, rings with a text or, the folks who work for me, they always say, everybody who calls here, they know you. And I go, that's the only people who call me are people who know me. And it was like, I got a call from so-and-so today and it was about his daughter and she had a thing. And, and it was like, I'm their God. And
Yeah.
I'm not, and you know what? I love that. And if there's anything, if I'm elected to be Attorney General that I will miss is that I will not continue to be involved. But everybody's out there, still my clients. I'm going to still find a way to take care of you. I will get you to somebody who's going to, I'm still going to be there.
Well, you mentioned you have a bachelor's in accounting.
Bachelor's in accounting. Yep.
Okay. As another math nerd, I study applied mathematics.
Oh, that's.
And then settled on computer IT work, programming software, and now I do application support as a manager. So,
there is a perverse satisfaction in watching the numbers balance. I think every
that's true.
Math person at their core, no matter how sophisticated your math, when your equations work and you got whatever it is, when the debits and credits match, it all equals zero and it all balances out. There's just this little pervert that's like, ooh, I like that. I still do my own books, I still do my own little QuickBooks, and it's like, oh, everything balanced, and I balance my checkbook. I still did great. So yes, I love to know that on numbers.
Hey, I'm excited that when it comes to filing taxes, and I only owe like $15, or I'm getting $12 back, because the idea of the government owing me money irritates me, because that means I did something wrong in my calculations.
Here's on taxes. I'll tell you briefly, and I used to say this all the time. If I'm paying taxes or you're paying taxes, you are a blessed person. That means you made money.
Yeah.
And you know what? Be thankful. What a great country that we lived in. That is for, I have never bemoaned or begrudged paying a tax bill ever, because the fact that I'm paying taxes says that I have made money, and this country has afforded me the opportunity to do that. I'm more than glad to pay my tax bill. That is my thank you for the environment that allows me to be successful as an entrepreneur and to be successful on my own business.
Well, I don't want anyone to think that I'm some bigwig, but every time a penny tax comes up for vote, I vote yes. So,
well, I will say this, part of that's tough, because that kind of operates as a regressive tax on the pool.
Agreed. Sure.
And sales taxes, there's been a push. The more we put on sales taxes and the more we move away to tax policy and the rest, it becomes a disproportionate effect on people with lower incomes, and per diem and per use taxes disproportionately affect lower income.
I'll just tell you, Richard.
Sorry, nerding out on economics.
We have really terrible roads here in Lexington County.
Yes, well, listen. We begin a little discussion of tax policy, and you get there, and there you go.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Running for Attorney General with $0, no donations, no PAC money, you're
Correct.
not even putting in your own money. Walk us through what day-to-day operations for your campaign look like, because you don't even have a staff for your campaign.
Because I have volunteers, and I have amazing volunteers who are helping me. They do a lot of different things. One of the volunteers is Mrs. Hricik, who is my campaign manager, who is amazing. Honey, you're out there. You are. You are the best. Listen, the greatest bit of persuasion I ever did in my entire life was convincing that lady to marry this guy. And everybody who meets her says the same thing. So, but let me give you, just before we get into the practical, let me give you one. Number one, I felt like we needed to make a statement about the office of the Attorney General. And I thought exactly what you said in the opening is, when you owe no one, you can fight for everyone. That's exactly what the Attorney General is supposed to be. This is supposed, in many ways, this is a nonpartisan job. This is somebody who says, I will uphold and defend the rule of law. I will apply it equally. I will swear to defend the Constitution, and I will serve the people of South Carolina and the rule of law. I'm not serving a political party. I'm not serving what you tell me. The rule of law is the rule of law. So number one, that's the message that I wanted to elevate, because I think it's a message that resonates with people. Yeah. I think we're all tired of tearing at each other. I think we're all tired of throwing stones at each other. And as somebody who's the Attorney General, I get to speak in plain truths about the rule of law. And when I get these questionnaires and they say, well, what's your political position about this? You know what I write on many of them? My job's not a political position. My job is to defend the rule of law. If I tell you that that's my position personally, what happens if that becomes the law that I have to adapt? I said, now I've put myself in a box, both with you, with a public statement. I have undermined the rule of law. I don't take political position. I will tell you, I will uphold and defend the rule of law, no matter what groups have sent me their questions. That's what I tell them. But I mean, when they ask me legal questions, I give them the legal answer, that applies and whatever. So that's number one. Number two, there's a practical thing. And this is the fundamental change. And I think the podcast being here is exactly the kind of advertising I want to do. I think people in many ways want to be touched person, right? And I'll ask you this question, Barrett. Do you want a text from me? It says, hey, I'm Richard and I'm running for Attorney General. Is that what you really want? I know you were saying, nobody texts me ever on my phone. Gosh, if only Richard as Attorney General would just text me, my life would be complete. What do you think? Is that a no?
I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna say, how about an email from me saying my opponent is the devil, the world is on fire, and if you don't send me $20, it will all come crashing down in this moment.
Sure.
I know that's the email. You sit and wait. You just hit refresh on your Outlook or your Gmail, and you say, oh, please, hopefully that one will come in so I can give $20.26 and change the world. What do you think?
I'm going to say no again.
I'm going to say no again, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to say, do you want a postcard from me that says, I am the greatest thing, and my opponent is the devil, or whatever? And that's what you're waiting to get in your mailbox, and you just can't wait to see that so that will then sway you as to what you're going to do and what you're going to do. Okay, I'm being ridiculous, and I'm saying these things because it's true. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right.
The era of that kind of contact, I think, is becoming less and less. And I'll give you a practical. And then I'll expand back to that. The last time you streamed the show on whatever service, is it because they marketed to you or one of your friends said, you need to check out this series? This is really good. I bet you it's one of your friends. Yeah. I'm going to go once further. You're in Colombia where you went out to eat and somebody said, you know what? You should go to this place. It's not because they sent you a coupon or 10% off or you saw the TV advertisement. Somebody said to you, hey, you should go check out the food at so-and-so's is really good. I had a good burger there. I had a good burger.
Word of mouth.
And then I'm going to give you the Savannah Bananas business. Savannah Bananas have built a $35 million business. So what's the very first thing he did? He removed every bit of advertising from the inside of the stadium and he said, no one wants to be marketed.
Yeah.
And what they do is they share their experience one-to-one with friends and family. And he has built a $35 million business that sells out everywhere it goes. And his marketing budget, guess what it is?
Zero? Yeah.
It is zero. And that, my friend, is exactly the thing. My point is, I have built a law practice that is incredibly successful. I'm not on billboards, I'm not on bus stop benches, I'm not on TV, I have charlestonlawyer.com because nobody can find what you listed. So, because, and I don't even do anything with that. My daughter a few years ago, she was like, Dad, you need a Google profile. I'm like, okay, so we got the Google profile. Right? I mean, that's not me. It's just not authentic to me. And I think when people share their experience with me, whether I spoke to them, they saw me, they heard me, they say, you know what? This guy's authentic. He's speaking the truth and he's speaking his truth. And you know what? I like that. And I'm willing to share that. And I'm willing to talk to other people about it. And I just got a comment the other day on Facebook, and we'll do it a lot on socials, but I got a comment the other day on Facebook that says, this woman, I have no idea who she is. And she posted I just saw it just before we sat down with her. And she said, you need to meet this guy. He's smart. He's knowledgeable. And you know what? He will serve the people of South Carolina. He has my vote. Who gets that?
Yeah.
Right? You got to pay. I mean, who gets that? And I mean, what a lovely thing to say. And I will send her a thank you. But it just means that, that is, and it's growing. It was funny. I was down in Hilton Head for a conference, and I met this guy. And the guy looks at me and goes, you look familiar to me. I said, well, and I have a badge that I made myself.
I thought you were going to say
a piece of paper and a little piece of plastic. I printed it myself.
I thought you were going to tell him I am an accountant.
And I said, yes. I said, hey, I'm running for Attorney General. He goes, you're the no money guy. He goes, people are talking about you. And he goes, I'm a Republican. And he goes, and people are talking about you. He says, they're talking about your campaign and they're talking about you. I did another podcast because I didn't know this one existed. So that's why. But I did another one. And the videos from that are starting to resonate. We're starting to cut those up and we're going to start to distribute them. And, the other part of that is that's more of the authenticity. And then the last, I will also tell you this as a practical matter. I've been around politics a long time. And there's something called in advertising called the sea of sameness. And Barrett, I'm going to suggest you've probably watched television or a streaming service or whatever, and you've seen a bunch of attorney commercials advertising for personal injury cases.
Sure.
Could you tell me the law firms, or could you say, I don't really know the law firms, but I know they were personal injury?
Yes.
That's the sea of sameness. And this is exactly what happens in the political sector. You're going to have a Republican Senate committee committee, Republican candidates, Annie Andrews, the Democratic Senate committee. We have 7 congressionals. We have a competitive governor's race. We have 124 House races, right? So how much advertising do you think is going to come in starting September?
Lots.
Is anybody going to see it?
No.
That's the sea of sameness. And you ask people, they'll say, I saw political advertising. They won't say, I saw your ad, because unless they know you, because, oh, I saw Barrett, hey, then they tell you and make you feel good. Oh, but they're already voting for you when they knew you and they validate you on your ad. But, the person you're trying to theoretically persuade or reach is probably not going to get reached. I am trying to do nothing but alternative media, public appearances, doing things over Zoom, just inviting people. Hey, you want to talk to me? We're going to start rolling that out. I'm just setting up open Zoom calls. You want to talk to me? We're going to set up a Zoom. Come talk to me. You got your questions for me? What do you want to know about? What do you want to know about what I'm going to do about attorney general? There's no mystery there. And I think people are ready for it. If I send you a 30-second packaged ad that says, this is who I am, I mean, did you get a better sense of me in the 30 minutes we've been together than you would in a 30-second ad? I hope so.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. And anybody who's hearing this, if you're still with me, God, I love you. If you're still with me, you're like, God, this guy's interesting. I don't listen to him. It's because Barrett is such a good host. But it is, and it's like this is the authenticity. It's the talking and connecting with people, and this is what I love. I love people, and that sounds like funny, but it's the truth. It's like I built my entire career understanding people, because this is the heart of my job. I grew up working people. I know the perspective of people. I know what it's like to look into a checkbook and it still reads 0 even after your paycheck gets deposited. I know what meatless spaghetti tastes like, and tuna fish and ramen noodles, and I can go on. And I've driven a car and, praying to God that whatever the light is that's on inside isn't really bad, that because I just didn't have the money to do it. And it's like, and I know those struggles, and it's like, yeah, I'm in a different world now. I don't pretend to be like I'm still that world, but I don't forget. I don't forget what that's like, and I don't forget what that struggle is like and what that cost is like. And when you talk about the things about the attorney general, things like debt collectors trying to cheat you, medical bills that you don't owe, insurance claims, or you're getting the runaround, you need somebody looking out for you. And you know who counts on you not having access to justice or access to make a difference? The people who are pressing you for that money.
Right.
And that hurts you every day. That is a grind on me every day that those people are working at.
Yeah.
And I'm going to fight back to you. And I'm going to win to you.
Well, you mentioned this isn't your first time running for office. You've run for office a couple times before.
I did.
What is the difference in the campaigns previously versus how you're running this campaign?
Well, at different times, I mean, there has been an arc to these. I ran for county council in 2011 in a special election that was just an open seat. It was a very, very short campaign. County council isn't particularly glamorous, but it's road taxes and managing money. And I thought as an accountant, I'd be well served. And in 2020, I ran for state senate. And I ran for state senate to serve Senate District 43, which is coastal South Carolina. And part of it that I saw in 2020 was I saw the nuclear bomb that was coming, which was this gerrymandering thing.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it was to try to restore some balance. And that I was trying to prevent a Republican supermajority because I felt like they were going to gerrymander both the House seats and the state seats and theoretically the congressionals out of existence. And that's kind of what's happened. I mean, they have become non-competitive. There's very, very few of those races now that are viewed as competitive.
Well, yeah, and look at this supermajority that they have in the House and the supermajority that they have in the Senate.
Agreed.
And anyone that is cognitively connected to what's going on, I think they'd have to ask themselves, why is South Carolina 48th in the nation when it comes to domestic violence, or why are we 50th when it comes to this?
Well, on the
why
issue of domestic violence, by the way, there's a task force in the Attorney General's office.
Yep.
They said they were going to get it funded at $100,000, and guess what didn't happen? Just saying.
Yeah.
That's the Attorney General's office not working for you. So keep going.
So, I've got this shirt from ZJZDesigns.com. It's one of their Thanksgiving prints, and I wore it to family dinner last year. I got more compliments on that thing than any of the food that we brought. Seriously, their stuff is clever, it's comfy, and it's always a conversation starter. Whether you're into spooky Halloween teas, patriotic vibes, or you just want something original that doesn't look like it came from a big box store, check them out. ZJZ Designs. They've got new prints all the time, and I guarantee you'll find one that fits your vibe. Check out ZJZDesigns.com.
It feels crazy to me that people can't look at the evidence of who it is that they have been voting for the last, especially for Attorney General, for the last 29 years or some odd, and not have a sense of what that one party control has done in respect to what the Attorney General's office is. You've suggested, or you've mentioned, or you've argued really, that the AG's office has drifted too far towards being the state solicitor's office and away from consumer protection roles.
And they don't even that. They just take up political causes. I mean, they follow a lot of little insider baseball, but okay. So we say, what are all the things the Attorney General's office does? Well, they have these securities, and they're the securities commissioner and frauds and all these different things. But if you go, and this is why I come back on the medical bills thing, if you go to the Attorney General's office right now and says, we don't investigate debt court. Okay. If you have problems with your medical bills, that's for Consumer Affairs. And if you've got an insurance complaint, that should go to the Department of Insurance. So I have a question. What would be the enforcement mechanisms in those other offices, and what are they doing? Barrett, I bet you could guess. How aggressive do you think the enforcement mechanisms are in the Department of Consumer Affairs and in the Department of Insurance on these kind of issues?
Well, I've got one thumb and one tongue. So,
yeah, well, that's congratulations. Not very, I'll be gentle, not very robust. Okay.
I try to make it simple.
Yes, not great. I'll just say not great. And when it comes to the environmental issues, here's what we have going on right now. And this is when you say my number one issue that makes me insane. And this is one of those things. Right now, we have in Charleston, we have these plastic noodles. And I don't know do you know the noodles? The noodles are these little bits of plastic. They're used for injection molding. You melt them and then you can turn them into whatever. And they're little like plastic beads.
Okay.
They're showing up everywhere. They're in our marshes. They're in our beaches. They're in our harbors. Okay? That's ours. That's yours. That's mine. That is the legacy of our children. That doesn't belong to anyone. Okay? And they're being fouled and they're being moved. Right now, God bless them, we have nonprofits, the Charleston Waterkeepers and the Southeast Environmental Law Center. They are bringing lawsuits to try to bring accountability and to clean these things up. Now, do you know what attorney generals are doing in the other state? And we're not talking about wild liberals. Ken Paxton in Texas has sued 2 major chemical companies over these noodles in their waterlands. Wow. Ken Paxton is defending these. Here in South Carolina, our attorney general defending our environment. There you go. And you know what? Here's what I'm going to tell you to do. The attorney general, you are going to see environmental action because it is the heart, it is the DNA, it is what is blessed and great, the God-given natural resources of our place. And I will be damned if I let anybody take that away. And I will tell you, it's so fundamental to who we are. It is our DNA. And more than anything, and I say this, and I mean this as profoundly as anything, when you're fishing, when you're out on a boat, when you're walking on a beach, that is the chance for you as a person to truly, truly feel free and to see and touch the hand of God. Truly. You get to see it, you get to experience. That's the one place that every man, woman, that's the place where you can be free. I will not let anybody take that away from me under any circumstance. That's the people's attorney. My job is to defend that, and to defend that not for you, but to our children and our grandchildren, because it belongs to all.
Yeah. Your platform lists pretty wide net: egg prices, ticket prices, chemicals and foods,
right?
Data privacy apps built to hook kids. Of those and others, what is it realistic, or I guess, which of those is really realistic for the AG's office to actually take on? Because it sounds like a lot.
Well, here's what I will tell you. The good part is, in many instances, aggressive AGs who are serving the people of their state and looking out for their financial bottom line have begun this litigation in other places. And, it's very easy to mimic this litigation and to bring people in. There's sort of been this like, well, we can only hire outside attorneys to do this. And they do these, outside retention agreements. No, I've been involved in plenty of complex lawsuits. Give me young, smart, hungry attorneys, narrow issues, and people who want to zealously, if I tell you you're a young attorney and I say you get to do important work and serve the people of South Carolina, look out. Some of the most ferocious opponents are not attorneys with 30 years experience. It's the young attorney who's on a mission to do good works. And that's the people who I'm going to hire. And that's we're going to fix things. We're going to change things, or we're going to die trying, man. But I will tell you what, we're going to make the effort, and we're going to do the things that touch people's lives. And my press conferences aren't going to be about, well, gosh, I filed an amicus brief in Illinois about some issue or whatever, and it's a political issue trying to curry favor with a presidential administration.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't care any less. Do you know what I want to do? I want to announce on Friday, we shut down this debt collector who was ripping people off. And there was this medical billing company who was ripping these people off. And we got them shut down, and they're paying X into the state, and they've entered into a cease and desist agreement. And you know what? Oh, by the way, just like your parents, I made that company who dirtied our marshes. I made them clean up their mess. And congratulations to all of us. It's going to be clean, and I'm the one that did it. And you know what? I'm not going to do it for me, but I did it for you. And that's something. I want victories we can all celebrate. I don't want political victories. I don't want only the red team cheering for me because I did this with the Attorney General's office, or the blue team cheering for me. I want everybody in South Carolina to go, you know what? Debt collectors ripping people off. Yeah, we should celebrate them going down. And whoever these companies are, if they're following our marshes and our beaches, yeah, we should all be able to celebrate. Because you know what that does, Barrett? It binds us all to the rule of law. And it starts to heal this crazy, crazy divide we find ourselves in, where people are so pitched and so feverish on either side.
Yeah. You've also proposed competitive bidding when it comes to these outside law firms that are hired by the state. Like, how big of an issue is that? Are we legitimately just hiring law firms that, or a named law firm just because of their implied weight?
Well, here's what I would say. It's an implied weight, but all right. Let's look at what the problem is, and then we'll reverse engineer. Okay, math guy. Okay, I'm an attorney of 30 years, and I'm also an accountant. I've also run a civil law practice. If a case has very low likelihood of recovery, is a complex issue, is going to require thousands of hours of work to maybe or maybe not get there, and the science or the theory is not exactly sound, you should reward that law firm for making that investment, right? But you need to understand all of those parts of civil litigation. And since I've been doing it for 30 years and evaluating risk and intuitively understand how attorneys get paid and see risk and where risk exists in cases and how things are doing in other cases, and things like how bellwethers work and MDLs. And they're like, "Woo," you know, I'm talking gibberish, but just this. In a class action lawsuit over a novel medical theory, there's something called multi-district litigation where they put everybody in there. And then they'll choose one or two test cases that they call the bellwether. And how did those bellwethers do? Well, those bellwethers, you know, let's say the jury said, oh yeah, company X did a bad thing, or no, company X didn't do a bad thing. Well, that changed the risk calculus out at all. So this is my whole point. When you say competitive, it's not competitive, it's knowledgeable. And you know what? When you've been a county solicitor, no offense, you don't know the first clue. You are talking about multi-million-dollar litigation with the biggest opponents and understanding all this risk and without any knowledge of the civil litigation process. Man, I've been in federal court. I've been to the Federal Court of Appeals. I have been to the Supreme Court of the United States. My name is actually Richard Hricik. My name is in the Supreme Court of the United States, right? I've taken on these huge opponents. I have had million-dollar cases. If you don't understand and you have not been in the room with these issues, you can't understand how to price them. So when you say competitive, I say educate, because these are the conversations you can have. And you can always do bridge. And I, by the way, I also serve, just to give you a little idea, on ethics and attorney. So I'm appointed by the Supreme Court of South Carolina as an assigned attorney to investigate the ethics of other attorneys. That's a pretty big deal. That's an honor. That's bestowed on me. I take that very seriously. I'm also a fee dispute hearing officer, so that if a client has a dispute with their attorney over their fee, there is a process, and I am a hearing officer. I will hear that dispute, so I intuitively know and intimately know the ethics, fee disputes, how fees can be structured, where they're structured, and how. I'm also now on the Ethics Advisory Committee of the South Carolina Bar. So all of these things play into knowing how to do these things. Just saying, well, we need to hire lawyers. Okay, well, that's the first part. And you can structure a fee a bunch of different ways. I can pay you a low hour, but then say, I'll give you 10% of the recovery, but I'll give you something for your time. I can do hybrid fees. There's so many different ways to structure it, or if the recovery is X or the number of hours are Y. You can do a million things. You can also bring these things in-house, and you do shared agreements where, okay, we're going to use your expertise, but we're also going to use people from the state. And so we're going to reduce your fee accordingly, where the state can do resources for you, where we could be your paralegals for you. We can take that administrative overhead off your desk. Mm-hmm. Well, then we're going to negotiate a different fee. This is what I'm saying. It's the creativity of knowing it's not a default. It's not just there's one attorney fee, and this is what it is. But if you don't know that, you don't know all these things that I know, and the lawyers that I would be dealing with, they're lawyers who we sit down and negotiate stuff all the time. Think about complex court cases where there's multiple law firms involved. At the end of the day, a bunch of lawyers got to sit down and work out the deal.
Yeah.
Right? There's a finite pot. We got to work out the deal. You negotiate for a living. That's what we do.
It's interesting. Definitely interesting.
I have ideas, my friend. and the ideas are to serve the people of South Carolina and protect their money. Right? I'm not just going to get in there, and that's part of the all or no one. Look, man, I'm going to get us the best deal. And you know who can get you the best deal? The guy who cuts the deals.
Well, let me ask you a question. What do you think South Carolinians themselves are facing the most when it comes to something that the Attorney General isn't currently working to make better for South Carolinians? Not necessarily an attack on Alan Wilson, sure, but just in respect to where are South Carolinians being hurt the most? Absence
of consumer issues. There's hurt you every day. And because they're margin, okay? A $500 debt that you're being chased after that you don't owe when you are making $30,000 to $40,000 a year is a significant debt on you. And you might just give in because you have no other choice. And I'm going to keep going, right? You're tired of dealing with those consumer issues. And that's why I come back to those bread and butter. I come back to the fact that somebody tried to cheat you, a bill you don't understand, an insurance claim when you pay your insurance and they're giving you the runaround. You then have to go to attorney, and now you've lost out on your claim if you can even get an attorney involved. So there's, and the other is protecting our environment. It's madness to me. It is absolute madness to me that we are not, I could get a little bit into the weeds, but just understanding the nerdle type thing, there's a notice that gets served on the state that says, hey, state, we discovered this Clean Water Act violation. You might want to do something about it. And if you don't do something about it, then we as the private nonprofit group, we will do something.
Yeah.
Well, that. And this is what I mean. And it's like, I will bring the power of the state, right? And I'm used to being, David versus Goliath, right? I am used to being the law offices of Richard Hricik against these giant big companies and big insurance companies and big defendants. And they come in with their, multiple lawyers and multiple whatever. And the joke I always say is it makes it a fair fight. Let's joke there. Right? But, it is because, I am willing to do the work. Would I take up your cause and you hire me? I am your guy.
Yeah.
I am your ride or die. I will go and, that's what I'll do. One of the things I have at my desk, it's sitting right here and I read it all the time. And you know what it says? Why do I succeed? I succeed because I am willing to do the things you are not.
That's fair.
It's just that simple. And I'm willing, if this is what we're doing, then this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
This is, if we're going to go, this is what we're going to do. And this is the fight, then this is the fight we're going to have.
Well, let me ask you some public safety questions because
Yes, sir.
this is something that I think, and I was shocked to find because it hadn't even occurred to me. And I don't do a whole lot of driving. I try not to drive anywhere if I can.
Okay.
But South Carolina has one of the worst drunk driving fatality rates here in the country.
Shocking.
You've said the laws aren't the real problem, that enforcement is.
Yep.
So what does the Attorney General's office role in actually doing something about that? Giving the solicitors, not the AG, making the charging decisions?
Here is the what I would say to you, because I think it's really important. So there has been, and I don't know where it landed because the last time I looked at it, there was a pending piece of Senate legislation. I think I even linked to it on the website about where it is, and I don't know where it fell in the whole legislative process is. But what we need to do is we, as the Office of Attorney General, my job is to help support the 16 solicitors who deal with the crimes that touch your life on death. And it's the same with law enforcement. So what I will do is I will convene us all and say, what tools don't you have? What is it that we need to do? And do we need to start trying to, approach the legislature about sentencing guidelines? Are we going to start having, and my office will help pick up the slack and parachute in. We're going to start trying more DUI cases. I'd love to see people going to jail. What resources can I give you to help tell people if you drive drunk, you go to jail? Do you know, I used to teach a course in law called comparative law, right? And I believe it's Chile, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. Do you know what the punishment is for drunk driving in Chile?
Mm-mm.
Death penalty.
What is it?
Death penalty. Because they say that
For drunk driving.
For drunk driving. Don't
get me wrong. That is a choice that someone has made.
Right. Stay with me though, because it's. I'm not saying I'm not just
Sure,
a role
yeah.
player. I'm not advocating for the death penalty for drunk driving. But what I'm trying to say is culturally, they say if you are drunk when you get behind a 4,000-pound car and indiscriminately place anyone in your path of this, you are the most dangerous person. And that's their cultural viewpoint. And that's a cultural viewpoint to say, I do drunk driving the same way. We have Uber, we have Lyft. It's so easy to get a ride anywhere you don't. And if you are willing to be drunk, put yourself behind the wheel with a car capable. What's more dangerous? A 4,000-pound car at 60 miles an hour or 6 bullets in a handgun? I would assert to you a 4,000-pound car out of control is far more lethal.
Yeah.
Right? And the harm and the chaos that they do, especially to indiscriminate reason. So yes, I would love to see that. And I would love to see the legislature get behind the idea of stricter punishment for that. And they're working on it. And that also translate, there's been some fights about, liquor liability laws. Well, you know what? If the DUI laws were stricter, those things would help. And they'd help local bars in the mess. So there's a lot of good that can be done.
Yeah, I can see how that would have a ripple effect, benefits to even local businesses here in Columbia. I'm sure it's the same in Charleston, but these liquor liability laws are crushing these businesses.
Well, you're into a whole different thing now. What's the cause of insurance? But what I'm saying is one of the solutions is fixing that drug diet, right? That's an easy fix, and that's what I think. That is there somebody out there who says, you know what? We should have more drunk driving? No, I mean it's a public health hazard. Every time you're on the road in the evening, that risk exists. That you need to.
Yeah. Yeah, no, with respect to, if you can get fewer people to drive drunk, maybe we could see some sort of relief for these small businesses in respect to what those insurance premiums are. Right now, those insurance premiums are crushing these businesses to the point where we're losing restaurants and we're losing, watering holes or bars or whatever. So it's, it's the potential to benefit, and there ain't no Democrat or Republican I know that doesn't hate the fact that their local restaurant that they like to go to once a week or whatever is no longer there anymore because it has succumbed to the financial burden of these liquor liability laws that we have.
Well, one of the other parts of that too is I would also say too, that let's have a full and complete discussion. Let's see what exactly is going on in the underwriting of insurance companies.
Oh, that's
A crisis has existed, but yet the oversight by the Department of Insurance, by the way, guess who didn't testify or produce any records or documents or otherwise when this crisis was going on about why they had to raise their insurance?
I'm going to guess the insurance.
How about that? So here you go again. Now we're back to the, it's cart before the horse. It's like, let's have the rule of law. Let's have transparency. If you're saying this is an issue, then let's let insurance regulation happen. Let's see let's see what's there. If this is the problem, let's see it. You know what happened, by the way, when they looked at this in Georgia? Guess what they found? Take a look at it. It's worth a Google. It seemed the insurance companies got pretty good about structuring entities to show losses when maybe they weren't showing losses.
Wow.
Just saying.
Wow.
I know that would shock you that there would be these kind of, and you need a good accountant who knows how to look at numbers and finance and understand how intercompany transfers, receivables and such. And somebody who loves Excel. Indeed.
That's fun. Okay. Not something so much fun, but also public safety. South Carolina has ranked among the 10 worst states for women killed by men in 23 of the last 25 years. Why is the state of South Carolina failing? Is it the law or is it the way that it's used?
I mean, what I will say to you is this, is the why isn't as important as the will to do something to make it different. I was taking a look literally at this very issue just before I came on the podcast. And it wasn't because I was doing it for the podcast. I was looking at something in the Attorney General's report. And I want to make sure I get it right. And I can look at it real quick because I think it was. But I believe, and if you just give me 1 second, I think it says the violence against women. Yeah, this is exactly right. The failed Violence Against Women Prevention Coordinating Fund. Okay. Strategic Plan Measure 2.1.1. The office set a target to secure $100,000 salary and benefits for a staff position focused on the prevention of violence against women's crimes. And the fiscal year 2025 actual expenditure was? Bet you can guess.
I'd have a drum roll play for you, but it's
0.
not.
Funding was not secured for a staff position focused on the prevention of violence against women's crimes. In a state ranked among the nation's worst, we couldn't get $100,000 out of this legislature allocated for a violence against women's coordinating. Okay? Getting the picture?
Hire me.
It's an absence of leadership.
Yeah.
It's an absence of priorities. It's an absence of being a voice for the issues that matter. If I hold press conferences about political issues, yippee, whatever. if I hold press conferences about women being killed and drunk drivers and pollution in our marshes and shutting down debt collectors, guess what? The will move. People will move because these are issues that touch their lives every day that are not red or blue. These are issues that touch them and affect them. I want to go to work for people. I want to fix things. That's what I love. I want the satisfaction of doing the job and serving the people of South Carolina and actually fix something.
What is so?
It was one of my grandfather's greatest traits. I mean that seriously, Barrett. Like, it's in my DNA. Like, I'm a guy to this day. I can fix a toilet. I can fix electrical. I can fix cars. I have that thing. I love to fix things. And that was my grandfather. My grandfather was like, if you go on my website, you'll see the old photo of him and my grandmother and babushka and the whole thing. My grandfather was the sweetest guy, and I have the greatest memories of him. But you know, he taught me that you can fix it, right? And when I had my daughters, you know, anytime I fixed anything around the house, I would have them sit down, like, these are the tools, this is how we're gonna do it, this is how we fix them.
Yeah.
And because seeing that broken things can fix is a powerful metaphor in all lives. Things break. Things don't work correctly. But you know, with intention and the right tools and a willingness, you can fix it.
Yeah. Effort.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah.
So
No, and I'm the same way, although my talent for repairing vehicles is waning because of the number of computers they're shoving in there.
I rebuilt, and I was literally having this conversation with someone about rebuilding a motor and changing out a head gasket. And I'm like, you lift the hood now, and it's just it's this plastic cover with 7 computer modules. I had jetted cards, and I had a timing gun with the light, and like, that's how I learned to fix cars.
Yeah. No, I fully I have a 2005 Honda Element that's got 300,000 miles on it, and I do the oil changes. I make sure the air filter's either clean or changed. There is nothing that I won't do to baby this car to make it last. And it isn't because I can't go buy another car, but it's because if I get a new car, it's going to be outside the scope of my ability to repair. And that scares me.
I don't disagree, right? We're in an era now, you plug in the diagnostic health thing. And, I was back, like, I was trained, it's 3 things. You check gas, spark, and air.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
you
start,
exactly.
right? Like, okay, there's your diagnosis. The car won't start. Okay. And you start with gas, spark, and air. And it's got gas in it. Okay. You got spark. Is the spark getting from the battery to the starter? Is it getting from the starter, to the solenoid? Is the solenoid, I don't know, right? You get it all the way up to the spark. And the last one's air, right? Is it getting air? Is something stuck? Is there a an airline off? Or, back in the old days, people used to stick a potato in somebody's exhaust. I mean, I worked in the gas station, and we couldn't figure out why this car wouldn't start. And sure enough, somebody had, they'd done the trick. They'd stuck, and I never was. But I think it was a tennis bat.
It's still weird to think that the complexity of a combustion engine and one potato.
Yes, it can be right. It will not run. Right? It will not run.
The good news is it takes 2 potatoes now, and nobody can afford that.
No,
so,
yes, exactly. So fun.
So your first week as Attorney General, what does that look like? Are we going to see potentially an audit to try and see where we're missing?
Well, the first thing any good CEO does is you marshal resources, right? Yeah. You take inventory. We have, I've read the Attorney General's annual accountability report. I've actually read it, the whole thing. I know the structure. I can tell you its divisions and how it's structured, and that's what we're going to do. And we're going to sit down and we're going to say, okay, what are things we're going to prioritize and what things aren't we? Who has staff? Where do we need it? Where are we going to reallocate? I want to get out of a business of, a lot of this amicus filing nonsense. Of taking political positions in other cases. Yes, it's a valid tool, but just simply doing it for the sake of doing it and then doing press releases and the rest, that's a lot of misuse of resource.
Yeah.
Where public policy is being won, okay, I can, as an amicus filer, I can say and see, in numerous places. And for those who don't know, amicus filing is just a way for a party who's not part of the case, but it is a case before the Supreme Court of the United States say, hey, this is South Carolina's position on this case.
Right.
But you can really misuse it. You can go to any one of the circuits across the country and file in those circuits in cases. And and a lot of that is just unneeded. It's limited, whatever. But my whole point is, where do you start? You start by marshaling resources. You figure out what you have. I can't just say I'm going to, blow up the entirety structure in the Attorney General's office that has a division. But we're going to start to move it in a different direction. And that's what we're going to do. And the movement that we're going to have in a different direction is press conferences on politics will end. Press conference on victories for people from South Carolina will begin. And you're going to love them because there's going to be nothing better than seeing government work for you. When a government says, you know what we did for you today? We fixed our website and we answer your phone calls. How exciting is that? Right? If our first press conference is, ladies and gentlemen, if you got a debt collector who's trying to cheat you got a medical bill you don't understand, you got an insurance claim that's ripping you off, I just changed our website. We do those things. And you know what? Here's the phone number. And you, Fred, Sally, whoever, that's your phone. And it's going to start ringing. And you know what? You answer the phone. That's where we're going to start.
Legit, the Attorney General's office for the state of South Carolina definitely says that they do not handle that.
Yes. I'm not. These are not. I do not say things that aren't true. I'm not to try to score political points. That's not my. But my point is, it's supposed to be the people's attorney. That's the title, is to serve the people of South Carolina. It's not to serve me. It's to serve you. I make the same. It's a fun little joke, and I mean it when I go on campaign stops. I talk about. I said, what's the best part about being an attorney general? I said, I get to be like Oprah on favorite things. You get an attorney, and you get an attorney, and you get an attorney, right? You get an attorney, Barrett. I'm going to be the people's attorney. I'm not. That's the job.
Yeah. Closing question.
Yes, sir.
What's the one thing that you want South Carolina voters to understand about this race before they vote?
What the job of the Attorney General is.
Yeah.
The word general is in the title for a reason. Let me help you. I am a lawyer of 30 years. You've heard all of my credentials. I am a constitutional scholar and a professor. I have handled cases against the biggest opponents, and the only people I represent are ordinary people. So when you look at the vastness of my background, in addition to my accounting and financial background, every single duty and responsibility of the office of Attorney General, I have done. That's why I would be a great general for you. I would be a great CEO for you. And no, I've never been a solicitor. And you know what? The solicitor doesn't run the office of the Attorney General. There's a whole criminal division, and that's why Creighton Waters, who heads up that criminal division, is trying the Alec Murdaugh case, because that's his job within the office of Attorney General.
Right.
So if you want a solicitor, you should vote for your local solicitor. And if you think a solicitor is important, then I will be sure to hire one of them on my staff, because I want to have good criminal prosecutors. But the Attorney General's office is supposed to serve you and protect all of South Carolina. I have the background, I have the experience, I have the passion. And when it comes to corruption, I owe no one, so I can fight for everyone. And I got a 30-year record of not only fighting for ordinary people, but winning for you. And we are going to have a ball celebrating victories that win for you. And when I answer your phone call, because I'm going to get on the phone still, I'm still going to find time to do it, because I love that. I love listening to people and their problems. I'm going to find at least a little bit of time every day to just get in there and get in the trenches on whatever is going on with the people of South Carolina, because nothing brings me greater joy than fixing problems for people.
Well, Richard, I'm going to tell you, I've already propositioned Jermaine about being his press secretary, but if you have an opening,
all right,
you'd be fun to work for.
Yes, I would. Because you know what? We can do serious work, but we can do it with a joyful part.
Yeah.
Right? And that is exactly the point, is we can do it with joy. Barrett, the one other thing that I'd want to say this, and I mean this sincerely, and I say it all the time. This campaign with the no money thing, I want it to be a gift to people, and I mean this sincerely. We all have somebody in our life. It's a cousin, a brother, an in-law, or whoever. That, it's like we can't talk politics, and we can't even go anywhere near it. And it's a hurt on our hearts. It is, because it hurts our family and strains relationships. I want my campaign to be the invitation. Just to say, you know what? I know we don't agree on a lot of things, but I just heard this thing. And he's running for attorney general. And what he's saying is the rule of law is black and white, and it shouldn't be red or blue. And you know what? That's held our country together for 250 years. And regardless of politics, I hope we could agree on that much. And maybe that's going to be the invitation for you to have that discussion. And just say, you know what? The rule of law does that. I stop at that same traffic like you do. I want the law enforced like you do. I want you to be safe in your home too, right? I want the rule of law to apply to everybody. And I want that to be the gift that lets people begin to heal and have us have conversation about what it means to be an American. Because what it means to be an American is to believe in the rule of law, not to believe that your side is the winner. It is the rule of law. And the rule of law equally applied has held us together for 250 years. Hopefully it's going to keep us together for 259.
Well, I will wrap it up by saying this, that first of all, if I went the entire episode and didn't thank Amy for connecting us, because ultimately she wants credit for that, and I know she's going to hear.
Credit. I love me some Amy. Amy's awesome. Shout out to Amy.
She's gonna hear this at the end and be like, Barrett, you asshole, you didn't have to say anything. But I know how much she adores the credit, so
she is.
Just put that in there.
Well, and Barrett, it's been a joy. And you can tell, I love this. I love talking about this. I have a passion for this. And I love teaching my students. The law's not above anybody. I always have people say, my lawyer told me it was complicated. And I always make the same joke. I'm like, well, how are they going to explain it to a jury? I'm like, there's nothing in the law that I can't explain. My clients all know the law. Whatever's going on in their cases, I sit down with them and I can explain whatever it is to you because, it really isn't that complicated. Right? Well, break it down for you.
Yeah. And I enjoy the law. So last question. Of all of the television programs that were on television that had, the lawyers and things like that, which, and I'm hoping you're going to say Boston Legal, which was the one that was the most accurate to real life when it came to litigation?
You know what? Here's what I'm going to tell you. I don't watch. I don't.
That's fair.
Because you know what? I do this every day. And then I watch stuff, I'll see scenes of stuff on legal shows and I just want to pull my hair out because I'll see, attorneys yelling at judges. And I'm like, sure, you're going to yell at the judge. Yeah. That's going to go over real well, and then they because, you see the same judges over and over and they get to know you, what do you think happens? Just like baseball with the umpire. You yell at the umpire, you think you're getting a call the rest of the game? Come on. Right? It's just, there's silliness. And then it's always, everything is always so over the top. Right? Yeah. And it becomes, but I will say this, being able to right a wrong for you, there's no greater satisfaction. I have been so blessed in my legal career to be able to do something. And I'm not talking about these things from, oh gosh, look at all the great things I've accomplished. But they're in Columbia, the Allen Benedict Court opponents. The family of Calvin Witherspoon, he died from carbon monoxide poisoning. And, under the state law, there would have been a very limited sum of money that he would have been entitled to. And I raised that as a civil rights violation. And I said, the conditions there were so terrible. That they rose to the level of a civil rights violation. And I got thrown out of the district court. But I went to the Fourth Circuit. I went to the Court of Appeals and changed the law. And that recognized the cause and action under those circumstances in public housing when it made public housing safe for society. What a thing. What a thing to be able to look back on my career and say, I did them. That I was, and yeah, I got paid. I got it. You can say whatever you want to say about my integrity that way, but you know what? It changed people's lives. It put people on notice. And if you need a press release and a wake up day, it's like, public housing is on notice. they must take the safety of their penny seriously.
Yeah.
Especially for people with no one to go, they need to vote. Last I'll say on all of that, Darren, is this, one of the things that I firmly believe, and we didn't even touch on this, is issues of faith. And I think I am a Christian. I'm someone who believes deeply in the teachings of Jesus, and that is the acts of love. And the only thing we can do is we do things with love. And, that what we do for the least of us, that's what the Attorney General's office is supposed to be doing. Yes, justice. Let it roll like a river. Unquestionable. But at the same time, that what we do for the least among us. And to give, Jesus' teaching was about giving voice to the powerless and those who don't, and holding those in power accountable. That's what the Attorney General's job is supposed to do, is to serve people and hold the powerful accountable, especially when they abuse the least amongst us.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you making the case today for the office, for the no money pledge, and for being straight with us, because ultimately a lot of candidates just you can read the insincerity on their face. And,
okay. I'm not a hard guy to tell. I give it away. What can I tell you? Right? I give it away. And this is who I am. And it's the only way I know how to be. And I'm the same guy in the stump, and I'm the same guy when I got an interview. I'm the same guy God helping that my wife puts up with that she's put up with for 30 years. I'm the same guy with my clients. I hug them, they hug me. I talk to them in the same way. And I can only be who I am. And that's one of the things that this campaign has given me the freedom to be, is to speak with real authenticity. It's like, these are my guys. This is what I believe. I put it, my website's detailed. I literally tell you my life story. I give you a pictogram of me as a little kid. I walked you through my entire life story. It's like, this is who I am. It's like, you want to know who I am? This is it. You can say a lot of things about me, but I always say, don't judge me by a 30-year record of fighting to me. What you can say. 30 years of an ethics record. Also, Chicago said, when I'm a guy with integrity, I try to do the right thing.
Well, it has absolutely been my pleasure to have you on tonight.
Thank you.
To all of our South Carolina listeners, the South Carolina Attorney General's race is on the ballot this November, alongside every other race that shapes how the state is going to be run. And however you vote, make sure you're registered. Head to the allaboutnothing.com/voter to check your status and register before the deadline, because it's coming up quick.
Yes. And one thing I'll tell you as well, when I'm Attorney General, I'm the attorney for all the people, even the ones that don't vote for me. Yeah. Even the ones who don't like the D and the N in my name. That's okay. I'm still going to fight just as hard for you, because I don't care who you vote for. To the people of South Carolina, my job is to look out for you.
Well, I can tell you this. I had Mark Lynch on a couple weeks ago before he was exiled from the Republican primary, or after the Republican primary. And I felt like I really had to force him to acknowledge that he would be a senator for everyone, not just the ones that voted for him. So
this is the great part about being the attorney. I'm the attorney for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And the rule of law, man. Listen, doing what's right, that isn't a political issue. Right? Upholding those things, upholding the rights of the state, upholding the rights of people, protecting our resources, protecting you, making sure you're safe. Come on.
Yeah.
These aren't complicated. These are political.
Yeah. Yeah. No, right? I hope. Yeah. No, it the way you lay it out, absolutely. It feels like the Attorney General's office up until recently, and mostly through our conversation, it's been overcomplicated, or limited, or prioritized the wrong way. So,
well, there has been, when you get length of service in office, it's good to take a certain shape and a certain idea.
Yeah, it's created
certain pathways politically where Henry McMaster was Attorney General, became governor. Alan Wilson was Attorney General now. So it has had a political pathway component to it. And that's part of when you ask me, what's the one thing I want? I want a reorientation to give up. I want them to see that it's supposed to be the office of the people. It's not a political office.
Yeah.
It's supposed to serve the people.
Well, Richard Hricik, let me do that again. Richard Hricik, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. And next time you're in Columbia area, let me know, and
let's do it.
I'll buy you lunch, because it doesn't sound like.
Listen, I love me to eat now. I'm 1 of 6, right?
Okay.
I will eat what literally. When you're 1 of 6, you know how you can tell people from a big family, you eat fast, right? You just like you do, because it's just what you did, right? It's still to this day. I will eat. My wife will be like, "My God, man! I'll catch you more." Because nobody, just the two of us, and it's a horrible habit, but it's like it's the biggest dead giveaway, right? And I still like meatloaf.
Yeah.
Right? That was one of my mom's favorites. There we go.
That's fantastic.
Alrighty, my friend.
All right. I appreciate it very much. All right, that's going to do it for this episode, number 320. Again, thank you to Richard Hricik for being on the show. Again, candidate for the Democratic Party for Attorney General. Again, probably the least partisan interview I think I've had in a long time, just so you know.
And the most fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I would not.
I'm going to break that on.
Look, you're going on the board. That's all there is to it.
Wow. Nice. I like that.
All right. Links to all of our past episodes, podcast platforms, merchandise, and social media are available at our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com. And if you think our financial model of giving away free content and entertainment is silly and you're in the giving mood, why not become an official Nothinger and support the show? You can get exclusive access as well as early access to this episode. Visit members.theallaboutnothing.com. Or
Barrett,
you can find
wait a minute. You're giving away for free? This is like, oh my God, I love it. This is like the inverse. No wonder this is like a whole symmetry thing. The donate political campaign and I do media where I don't get paid.
But the pitch is go pay for it.
Okay. Well, I was trying to help.
I know. Right. All right. You can find the link on our webpage. Also, you can give us a one-time donation through the same link. And if you'd like to be a part of the show, you can call and leave us a message, 803-672-0533. Or you can email the show at theallaboutnothing.com or join our Discord server. Links found on our webpage. Thank you for listening, everyone. You all stay safe, be kind, and
keep your hands to yourself.
The All About Nothing podcast is a product of Big Media and produced and engineered by me, Barrett Gruber. Thanks to Cake for our intro music, Sick of You. You can follow everything Cake the band at cakemusic.com. Thanks to Muff the producer for our outro music. You can follow Muff on Instagram at Muff the producer. You can follow me across social media by visiting Linktree/Barrett Gruber. And you can follow Zach King on Linktree/AANZach. Want to support the show? Visit our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com, and become a member. There are several tiers available that give you early access to episodes as well as exclusive content. To find links to our social media, podcast platforms, and merchandise to support the show, as well as past episodes, visit theallaboutnothing.com. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can email theshow@theallaboutnothing.com, or you can call our number and leave a message. Dial 803-672-0533. If the time between these episodes is more than you can handle, check out our sister shows. What the Pod Was That with Carrie, Zach, and myself. Welcome to Wonderland with me. Politically Speaking with Erica, Kirsten, and Emily. And Black, White, and Blue in the South with Dr. Jameel Brooks and Bill Kimbler. Please subscribe and share this show. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and punch that notification bell. Thank you for listening, and hear us next week.
Well, you've made it to the end. You survived the rambling, the tangents, and whatever nonsense we just subjected your ears to. Congratulations. Now that your brain is sufficiently scrambled, how about doing something productive for democracy? Before you go off to forget everything you just heard, do yourself a favor and double-check that your voter registration is actually legit at theallaboutnothing.com/voter. It's about the only way to make sure your vote counts, even if your taste in podcasts is questionable.
The preceding podcast is solely owned by the host or hosts and is distributed by Big Media, LLC. Copyright 2026.